pick to win it all at Oak Hill. A really clean car for Scottie there. His first bogey-free round in a major, which I found to be pretty interesting, Doug.
He might be the only guy to go bogey-free today. It was really a remarkable day for Scottie Scheffler. And Jacqueline, you and I have talked all week. He's #1 on the PGA Tour greens hit in regulation, over 74%. But today at Oak Hill, he was only 11 of 18 greens hit in regulation. But yet he never bogeyed a hole, so he got up and down, 7 for 7 in scrambling, including 2 for 2 from the bunkers. It was just one of those great days, even for world #2, a guy who's done so much here in the last couple of years. When you go around a place like Oak Hill, bogey-free, and set the standard at 67, wow. I mean, that's exactly what the doctor ordered for Scottie Scheffler. He has got to be dancing a jig somewhere because this was the start that he really wanted.
We have Scottie having himself a bogey-free round, and then obviously a little bit of a different story for Rory, who has 4 bogeys on his card, already facing just an uphill battle on a Thursday. He's 1 over after round 1. Where are the shortcomings for Rory? What's going wrong for him there at Oak Hill Country Club?
Jacqueline, it's all about the driver, which is kind of a head scratcher because I've always considered him the #1 driver of the golf ball in the world. I mean, it's amazing watching this young guy on the range, and then I'm lucky enough to walk inside the ropes, and what he does with the driver in his hand, and even a 3-wood, is remarkable. But again today, Rory McIlroy, 2 of 14 fairways hit. Think about that, 2 out of 14, got off to a really slow start. Did birdie 3 of his last 6 holes, which brought him back. In his post-round interview, he seemingly was a little upset, thought he hit the ball better with his irons and was disappointed with that 1-over finish. But again, it was a sluggish round all the way around. And not only was the driver bad, but right now he ranks 95th in putting up to this point of the opening round. He had 30 total putts. That happens at Oak Hill, but the bottom line for Rory McIlroy, somehow he's got to drive it better. 2 out of 14 fairways hit, that is going to get you beat down in a hurry at Oak Hill.
Well, welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is presented by Bonobos for wherever your tour takes you. Kyle Porter here, and we are boots on the ground at Oak Hill. The sun is setting on what was an excellent first day of golf.
I think it's set. What was your moment of the day?
Tom Kim rolling around in the mud. Then having to wash himself off, then only finding out after his round that we all had saw it.
Yeah, we just saw this tweet from Claire Rogers. He said, "Everyone knows," as if
we know,
as if like you know, all of us who follow this religiously weren't watching the PGA Championship and seeing Tom Kim up to his, you know, belly button in mud.
Certainly, indeed. We're gonna add one more voice to the conversation. Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
What's going on, guys? I'd have to agree with that moment. It was that was pretty special. I don't know if I've seen that happen very often before, but when you get Tom Kim doing it, he makes it very entertaining, and I loved his comments afterwards too.
Normal sport.
Certainly a normal sport. We saw the best players in the world play golf on a phenomenal, difficult golf course, but Tom Kim rolling around in the mud was the moment.
It's the first round of a major. You're not supposed to get all historical and wax poetic. It's supposed to be Tom Kim rolling around in the mud.
Well, we're here at Oak Hill, KP, and a lot of times at major championships, the storyline is obviously the players, but a lot of times the golf course starts to take hold of the conversation. And for what we saw on this Thursday, that was delayed this morning, frost delay this morning, set us back about 2 hours. How would you assess the play that we saw out here?
Well, it was interesting because you always hear, I think Dan Rappaport put out a tweet today about how you get basically major championship bingo, where it's like, oh, drop a ball in the rough, and like it's going to be a hard, you know, what would an 18 handicap shoot? All these different things. But then you get to the tournament, and it usually turns out just being like a normal, harder than a PGA Tour event, but not crazy. This one was pretty hard, and it made me wonder if there's only been 4 PGAs that have ever finished with a winner over par since they went to stroke play back in like 1958, 59. The last time it happened was 1976. It actually made me wonder if it's going to happen this week, because Scottie Scheffler talked about this afterward. this might have been the easiest day. And that's a scary thought if you shot 3 over and are feeling pretty decent about it because you gained a stroke on the field.
Yeah, so that's right, Greg. We're at about 3.6 scoring average for Thursday. Now, I should caveat this that we are obviously playing until sundown. There's maybe a couple golfers still out there right now. Hard to see from our position, but we're not going to have the complete conclusion of round 1 on this Thursday. There will be a little bit of a resumption on Friday morning for the guys who went off late. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of difference in the morning, but this was a very difficult day around Oak Hill.
It absolutely was. I mean, you talked about the scoring average being, some 3 strokes over par, 3.5 strokes over par. There were only 2 golf holes on this golf course that played under par for the day. Only 2. So there are not a lot of birdie opportunities out here. When you have par 5s that are as long as these par 5s are, the fairways are as narrow as they are. And Kyle, I thought you bring up a really good point. We always see the ball drop in the rough, and we see how difficult it's going to be. And then we see these guys handle it just fine, and they're able to advance the ball a lot farther than we think and shoot lower scores than we think. But the rough out here this week, today, so far, was a problem. And we didn't really get the wind. And guess what's coming tomorrow? Wind. I mean, you may see wind gusts above 25 miles an hour all day tomorrow, starting in the morning. So I do think this is the easiest day we're going to get. And, the way scoring is right now, even par at the end of the week on Sunday could be a really, really nice number.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. And that's something that Scheffler talked about was like, hey, it might blow 10 to 20 over the next 3 days. And it didn't, there was a little bit, I guess, today. But what we saw on Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday in the practice rounds was at least the wind I thought was tougher than it was today.
Yeah.
I watched JT Poston and who else was out there? Oh, Joel Damon. Play the par 3 11th on Monday, or Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And there was honestly like probably a 20 to 30 mile an hour wind, and it looked like DeChambeau Mutombo in his prime, just swatting balls away from that green. So it's if it blows at all, some of these holes are going to be an even bigger problem, and they can tuck pins more.
Yeah, there's a chance that our current leader Eric Cole, who we'll talk about in a second, has to hit driver on 11 if that prevailing wind starts gusting 25 miles an hour. Greg, we'll go to you on Eric Cole. He's got a couple of holes to play, so we'll kind of tip our hat to him quickly here and move on to some of the bigger names. But Eric Cole doing it different than maybe some of the other guys in the field. He's not the longest hitter in the world, but we have seen him play well in tough conditions, in big-time events. He's having himself a great year already, posting something bright and early here at the PGA Championship.
Yeah, he's taken advantage of a lot of good birdie opportunities. The strength of his game so far this year has been his iron play and his putting as well, I would argue. But he has given himself opportunity after opportunity during this round, and he's taken advantage of a handful of them. And I think he's done a really nice job putting the ball in the fairway as well, or at least in the right fairways. When he has missed fairways, it happened on a par 5 that led to a bogey. He missed the fairway at 14. Ended up making a birdie there, and it seems to be where the missed fairways are opportunistic, where they're not really creating that big problem where he can't reach the green. And so many of these other players, when you look at their names and you say, how did they shoot 75 or over today? Well, they missed a lot of fairways, and it's hard to hit it on the green when you miss fairways. So Eric Cole's done a great job of positioning his golf ball off the tee, and as a result, he's been able to take advantage of the strength of his game, and that's been knocking a couple of iron shots really close, and putting a really, really nice roll on each and every putt.
Well, with respect to Eric Cole at 5 under par, I wanted to go to the real lead at 4 under.
Well, I've got a question real quick. Would you be more surprised if Eric Cole won this PGA or Jon Rahm won this PGA?
Eric Cole. Jon Rahm's not that far out of it. We were workshopping this earlier about if he just shoots 2 or 3 under on Friday, he's in it.
Oh yeah, I mean if he shoots 3 under, he might be in the top 10. He might be in the top 10.
Yeah,
right. Because Yeah, like you might only. I mean, look at this. I don't know if we can pull the scoreboard up or the scoreboard. I don't know if we can pull the leaderboard up, but you've only got 12, 15 guys that are under par right now.
Yeah.
I mean, would you take even par at the end of the week?
At this point, after what I saw today and hearing what I hear for the next 3 days,
-1 is T10.
Yeah, I like if you gave me -1 right now, it might be good. But Bryson is deeper than that.
Yeah.
The not so thick boy, 4 under par. 66 around Oak Hill. You know, he has played this a little bit differently this time, KP. We've heard him in the past say Augusta National was a par 67. That didn't work out. He kind of tried to temper expectations a little bit this week, saying, I don't know how anybody's going to break par. Well, he did. 66, back in the mix at another major championship.
Yeah, I asked him afterward. The question that I had on my mind, because we got some surprises in the first round. I think Jon Rahm shooting 76 was a surprise. I think that, well, Finau was a surprise until he shot 41-31, which was crazy.
Did he finish at 31?
Yes.
I saw it was okay.
72, 41-31.
I joked about that, and I actually went out and did
My favorite thing in golf is when a guy get like neither nine is in the 30s. Like you go like 29-42 or something. It's absurd. So there were some surprises on Thursday, but I asked Bryson. I said, "What has surprised you about this week?" And his answer was pretty good. He actually said the fact that I'm driving it straight, which I thought was kind of funny. But he had 8 drives over 320 yards, Rick, and
led the field off the tee.
Led the field off the tee by a lot, and he putted it well. So, is it sustainable? I don't know. He's only got 2 top 10s since that T8 at the Open Championship last summer, and they're both on Live. Now, one of them was recently, right? It was last week at Live Tulsa. I'm a little dubious of the sustainability just because he hasn't really shown it. He hasn't really had a ton of momentum recently, but it is kind of his type of track. You know, it plays into what he does well almost perfectly.
Well, Greg, you're our resident winged foot expert, and there were a lot of comps to winged foot earlier this week, and kind of alluding to the clubhead speed needed around the golf course with rough this thick, and maybe Bryson has a crack at this place, and certainly more than a crack here on Thursday.
You know, maybe it's recency bias. It almost seems like the rough is more problematic this week. It is given players just a complete headache around this golf course. But, you know, Winged Foot's a great example because not only is it just the clubhead speed that Bryson brings to the table, this is something that Rory McIlroy talked about after Winged Foot. You know, Bryson's a great rough player. He has a really steep angle of approach into the ball. It really helps him, you know, the term bomb and gouge. If there's somebody that can gouge it out of the rough, it's somebody with a swing like Bryson DeChambeau's, and I think that really played into his advantage today. But at the same time, like Bryson said to you, Kyle, he didn't hit very many errant tee shots. He drove it really straight today, and he positioned himself to put it on the green 15 times. 15 greens of regulation every day out here, and you're going to win this tournament, especially when you're an adequate putter like Bryson DeChambeau.
The Live boys had themselves a pretty good day. Bryson DeChambeau, obviously 4 under par. Dustin Johnson, same score. He's got a hole to play. DJ, capable of doing big things at major championships. They're putting on a show to start this major.
Yeah, they really are. You know, DJ came in, he won Live Tulsa last week. I was actually, I regret not taking him in our one and done. I was actually pretty.
Did anyone?
I was thinking, did you?
I did.
Awesome. Great. Love that. He shot 67, so same round as Scottie Scheffler, who you just saw there. But I was excited about DJ this week because he, you know, we talked so much about can you hit at 310, can you hit at 320 and cover some of these bunkers and not get caught up in them. He drove it very well on Thursday, and as a result, he's 3 under, and I would say 1 back of the real lead. You know, it's weird though. DJ hasn't played that well in major championships recently, and he's been somebody who's always his tee to green game is so good that even when he wasn't playing that great, he would still kind of get into it at majors, and he hasn't done that recently. So I'm excited. I like it when DJ's in it. I love it when Bryson's in it because he's the high king. I told Kevin Van Valkenburg, he's like Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia. He's just the high king of content. Just he's talking about owner stability and peptide tests, and it's insanity, but I love it. I can't get enough.
That entire reference is over my head. But Greg, someone else who teed a greens this golf course to death was Scottie Scheffler, a bogey-free, blemish-free 67 round Oak Hill. It was absolute Scottie ball. Get up and down from everywhere, make par, move on. It was the same thing we have seen time and time again, gained over 6 strokes to the field, and Scottie Scheffler, stop me if you've heard this before, inside the top 10 at a major championship.
Yeah, this was Scottie being Scottie all day long. It was really, it was a clinic. And the thing that I really like about this round out of Scottie Scheffler, this was not his best stuff. I mean, a lot of that tee to green action came from his short game today. But that being said, this is what we have talked about on the First Cut podcast for seemingly months, over a year with Scottie Scheffler. He's really smart. He plays the right shot at the right time. Yeah. And strategy is really important when you're playing poorly. You know, every strategy works when you're hitting it right where you're looking and, you know, everything is going to plan. Every strategy works. But when it doesn't, are you still able to put up a score? And this was the prime example of that, where Scottie, you know, he hits 11 greens today or 12 greens today, and all of a sudden he's able to get up and down. But he's never short-sided. He's never in trouble. He doesn't make the mistake like Adam Scott made on 18, where you put yourself in an impossible situation. Now, it's still impressive to be really tidy and clean and leave yourself very makeable par putts the way Scottie did today, but he made the golf course a lot easier than some of the other players who were struggling, missing greens in the wrong spot. So it was really a tactful round. It was not his best stuff. And of anybody up here, I mean, maybe I would have said Adam Scott before his 18th hole, but I don't think anybody played a better, easier looking round than Scottie Scheffler today.
Scottie's kind of like, he's kind of got some Tim Duncan, where you watch it and you're like, yeah, it's fine. And then he's got, you know, 28 and 17 boards, right, and he's winning a bunch of titles. You know, it's the bank shot. Like, it's just, yeah, it's not super exciting, but it's so consistent. It looks so different, Greg, than sometimes JT, Rory, definitely Spieth. They make 68s look just exhausting, and Scottie doesn't. You know, he just doesn't do that. Real quick, Greg, before we go to break, who, off the top of your head, who's the best golfer in history with only one major championship? I was thinking about this with Adam Scott was up there. He's got one. Scheffler's got one. Scheffler's obviously a lot younger and hasn't gotten toward the end of his career. But do you have a best golfer in history with only one major?
Oh, best in history. That is a tough question. I think I'd have to go with, I mean, Scottie's probably going to add another major to the list. I will go with Adam Scott. I love what Adam Scott's done so far. Yeah, I think he's right. I think he's right up there. Beautiful career. There may be an old
David
timer
Duval,
missing, but
Davis Love III, Tom Kite, Tom Weiskopf,
Louis Oosthuizen.
Louis Oosthuizen is not on the list.
All right, we will continue this conversation and much more because there are notables, big name players, the number one player in the world who we haven't discussed yet. We'll cover that on the other side. Welcome back to the First Cut podcast. We are here live at Oak Hill, the PGA Championship. And if you've been playing along in our PGA Championship fantasy game, well, we've got almost a complete round in the books. Remember, KP, you had to choose a past winner, the best player under 30, over 30, and then one of our PGA Club pros. You're not near the top of the list.
No, I had Jason Day. That's not good.
But there are plenty of good names at the top of the list. And Mora, congratulations. At least through this point, you are in the lead. That team looks like Keegan Bradley, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, and the one, Wyatt Worthington, for his four-man lineup.
Pretty good.
So the big movers and shakers here, Scottie holding down the fort for the under 30s. Over 30, well, that's the same guy we've been talking about, Adam Scott. And then, of course, previous winners could have been Keegan Bradley. That would certainly go a long way.
Yeah, my team name is going to end up being better than my team. Old Greller. I'm proud of it.
Old Greller. Well, that should be worth at least half a point.
I don't know how the points work, but I don't know if half a point is good or bad.
It's probably better than what you've got. All right, we got to talk about some big names who had okay, medium, and tough days. Let's start with Rory McIlroy, Greg. It was a 1/71 where he didn't hit a whole lot of fairways, didn't look super sharp, but as the day went on, that 71 got better and better, still very much in the mix.
Very much in the mix. And look, he was 3 over par through his first 9 holes. He hit 2 fairways today. Just 2 fairways today. It's an incredibly impressive round considering that feat. But he had to do things like hole a putt for par from off the green down in one of those new runoff areas at number 2, like he did. And that's really the thing that jump-started the round. But then, after making a nice birdie at number 4, he actually hit it on that green in 2, then with an iron, which was just an awesome shot in there. But then you go to number 5, and he 3 putts, and it felt like it took away some momentum, and played a very nice 8th hole as well to get this round in at 71. But afterwards, I didn't feel like he felt overly confident. I don't feel like he is in this tournament the same way that some of the other players near the top of the leaderboard seem to be locked in. I feel like this was Rory's ability and talent shining through, but as the conditions get tougher and tougher, I still have my concerns. He's got to get this driver under control.
Yeah, I totally agree. The driver is. We talked about that. We were on HQ as he was kind of making the turn, and I think I said something like, "I'm not really surprised that he went out in 38," because we watched him in his practice round, or I watched him in his practice round on Tuesday, and it was right miss, right miss, right miss. And I mean, he is it great that he shot 71 hitting 2 fairways? Sure. Is it sustainable? I don't know if you can go out and win this golf tournament hitting 2 fairways every day. I mean, that's a very difficult thing. Now, I will say, the fight was good.
Right.
Like, bouncing back, that's not necessarily. I think Rory's more resilient than he probably gets credit for, but that's not necessarily how he's gone out and won major championships. But I was kind of impressed by that, just the fight that he had on the back.
Yeah, the thing is, KP, it's so easy to make bogey around this place. And if you just disengage and kind of eject, you just start piling up birdies and being able to come in, salvage this round. I mean, to Greg's point,
you start piling up bogeys.
Yeah, what did I say?
Birdies.
You do not start piling up birdies. No, you start piling up bogeys, certainly. And if you are able to be kind of, disengaged, struggling with the driver, and still shoot a 71 around Oak Hill, isn't that a good sign?
Yes, it is. And that's why, I mean, you have, like, if you're a fan of Rory, if you want Rory to win, I think you have to be proud of the fight that he showed. I'm with Greg. Like, the driver is not good right now, and he can't. You can't. I mean, can Rory go out and shoot 68 on Friday and be like T4 going into Saturday? Absolutely. Like, that is on the table, and he's very much in the tournament. But is he going to figure out driver between right now and then? I don't know. I hope so. That'd be great if he was in it on Saturday.
The problem is when you struggle with the driver and the driver is that much of a weapon for you.
Yeah.
It's harder to separate yourself from the rest of the field.
His iron play was good, though. It's a good sign because that's been, at times more. He's a great iron player. It's been more inconsistent than driver.
Is this the first medium Rory round we've had to open a major championship? It's usually full ejection or leading the tournament. We've never had a medium round.
Even the last especially over the last year.
Yeah,
he led after round 1 last year, and then just fade. So maybe it'll be the opposite. Maybe this is how he wins a major. We've tried
every combination.
The other 97 ways that you could win a major.
Well, it might be very difficult, though not impossible, for Jon Rahm to win this PGA Championship, Greg, and take the Grand Slam to LACC. But he's got a lot of work to do. A 6 over 76. You talk about guys that didn't particularly hit a lot of fairways, that didn't look super sharp. We were kind of playing the same level of combinations for Rombo of like, well, if he just shoots, 1 under on Friday and then, gets the right. We're trying everything we can to get Rahm back into the mix.
Yeah, and I understand it. And I will say, to your point, even though I think it's kind of crazy that a guy at 6 over is going to win this golf tournament, there are a few things that I could argue to support your point. A lot of these early bogeys that he made, which really got him off on the wrong foot, came from barely missing fairways. And then he's unable to get it on the green and loses control of where this golf ball is going to go, loses distance control. And then he made a couple of mistakes from the fairway on the second side, but those felt a little bit more like frustration bogeys. And then the other thing is this kind of, and I know that every difficult golf course has been compared to Oak Hill this week, but Olympia Fields kind of came into my mind from the BMW Championship a few weeks ago. Yeah. It had a very similar firmness to the greens. But the problem is, I don't think there's going to be that Saturday morning advantage where if Rahm goes out and shoots 3 under and is at 3 over and, in 17th place heading into Saturday, I don't think he's going to have that early tee time advantage where he was able to go shoot 66 at Olympia Fields. I think Saturday morning is going to be extremely difficult in its own right. And that seems to be the case tomorrow as well, where morning and afternoon, there's not a huge difference, not a huge separator as far as wind is concerned. Of course, that can change. We were expecting to get 15-mile-an-hour gusts this afternoon, and I don't think that happened. So this could be wrong, but he's got a heavy climb. But I don't think he's as far off with the driver as a Rory McIlroy. I think he got some bad breaks today.
Yeah, you look at the score and you see 76 on the card and you think, oh, that's not good. Right. And it's not great, but this is why strokes gained tells a better story than just what your score is, right? Because he only lost 2.4 2 strokes to the field. And he talked about Rick afterwards. He's like, I just need to get it to even going into Sunday.
Yeah, so think about this, right? So if you're coming Saturday to watch Jon Rahm, like him making the cut, like what's the cut line going to be? I mean, if he shoots even par, he's through.
For sure.
His cut might be 6, 7, 8 over if it really gets spicy on Friday. Like,
God, I hope it does. I can't wait. I mean, Rahm could shoot what? If he shoots 68, 67, which for sure not out of the question. Yeah. He's 1 over going into Sunday, maybe 3 or 4 back. I mean, it's a long way to go. But I don't know if we have the odds that we can pull up. Whatever his odds are, I'm in on it. Is it 20-1? Is it 40-1? Whatever it is. I mean, he did this at Harbortown actually, right after the Masters.
Got off to a slow start.
Bad start. Yep. Jumped back in it on I think it was on Friday.
I think it was Friday as well.
And then all of a sudden he faded at the end because he was exhausted. But I'm in on Rahm bouncing back from kind of a slow start on Thursday.
15,000, so 150 to 1 is what I'm being told, or Jon Rahm.
Plus 15,000. Okay.
Yeah, so 150 to 1.
Put it. Well, I don't have any money to put on that, but if I did, I would ride it.
All right, we'll have to make a call to our friends over at Caesars Sportsbook. Let's check in on a couple of guys going for their first major championship victory. Greg, you get the pick of the litter here. Tony Finau, you can go with. You can go with Xander Schauffele. You can go with Patrick Cantlay. Who would you like me to tee you up on?
Ooh, these are all great stories. Let's go with Xander Schauffele.
Xander Schauffele, 2 over 72. He starts off, how about this? Bogey, double bogey, bogey. Not a great way to start your round. It was much better after that. As we've been talking about, he is actually going to end up gaining about a stroke and a half to the field on this Thursday.
Right, and you know, these conversations about Jon Rahm and getting to the weekend and working himself back into it slowly. I feel like this is a situation more so for someone like Xander Schauffele, who's not so far back, where a 2-under par round tomorrow puts him right in the mix, and he doesn't have to go shoot 65 one day, if 65 is even out here this week. He doesn't have to do anything crazy like that. He can chip away and play the way he did for the last, say, 15 holes of this tournament and get himself right back in the mix. And the other thing I really like about Xander in this position he's in is his game is really well-rounded. And I'm watching the golf today. I'm saying, well, you got to hit fairways. But you're not going to hit all the fairways because they're really hard to hit. And so what do you do from there? Well, you need to be able to rely on your short game. You need to be able to take advantage when you do hit the fairway of your iron play. And Xander Schauffele checks all the boxes. And there aren't many players as well-rounded as Xander Schauffele. Of course, Jon Rahm's one of them. He's just 4 shots behind Xander. You know, he's well back. I think Xander's head start gives him a real chance to make a push here. And by the way, he is a great chaser. So I don't hate this position for Xander right now.
Oh,
That's what he does.
The
He
chase, Xander chase down.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, P, you get Hunky Tony.
Big Tone.
Big Tony Finau was out in 41. That included stretch. Bogey on 4, double on 5, bogey on 6, bogey on 7. However, flipped the switch, turned into a different golfer, turned into the guy that a lot of people liked before the event started, shoots that inward 31, and he's going to go to bed tonight probably feeling pretty good.
You know, we were talking about, I can't remember, it might have been me and you and Joe Musso talking about Tony is very patient and he's pretty disciplined, and I don't know that he gets enough credit for that because obviously he's long off the tee, obviously he scores well, obviously he's started winning a lot, but he's very patient and disciplined, and that comes into play so much at major championships. I'm glad he did flip that switch because he was my one and done pick this week, and it looked a little dire there for a while, but he's in it. I mean, what is he? He's 2 over?
He's 2 over.
2 over. The old 41-31.
Yeah.
You love to see it. And, I'm excited about him over the next again, any of these guys that we're talking about that are 3 back, 4 back, whatever, first of all, if they shoot 67, 68, something like that on Friday, right there. The second problem, though, is Scottie Scheffler. Like, they have Scottie ahead of them. They've got some other guys ahead of them, but Scottie's the one that if you're Rory, if you're Tony, if you're Xander, if you're any of these guys, he's the one that you worry about because he doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. And Greg, we've spent a lot of oxygen on this pod talking about the floor of Scottie Scheffler and how it just seems so unlikely that he removes himself from contention at any point, right? Like, he's going to be dealing with the same conditions and the same issues everybody else is, but that elite tee to green, go out and gain 10, 11 strokes from tee to green. It just keeps you in everything, and that's really the problem for the rest of this field. Plus Bryson, plus Adam Scott, plus whatever else they want to throw at the top of the board. DJ.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. And, think about Scottie Scheffler and some of the close calls that he's had. And, maybe he takes a little bit of heat for some of the short putting gets put on display. His struggles with the putter is the thing that costs him more wins. But it doesn't cost him contention. It doesn't cost him that floor. And when you get into an event like this where shooting 3 under par is one of the best rounds of the day, and it very well could be the best round of the day over the next 3 days, well, you don't really have to fill it up on the greens. Scottie today had a couple of bonus putts go in. He made 2 putts over 14 feet, and they were under 15 feet. They were 14 feet and change, and everything else was inside of 5 feet. So there wasn't really a whole lot of stress today, and he doesn't need to have one of these really high ceiling putting weeks in order to contend. And especially the more difficult the golf course gets, the more his golf IQ rises to the table, the more his ball striking and short game come alive and shine. And I think his weakness is hidden this week in a lot of ways, and his strengths are emphasized.
Rick, I found a great stat this week. I found a great stat today. Rahm and Scheffler have played in the same stroke play event 8 times in 2023. So they've both been in the field in the same stroke play event 8 times. They've won 6 of those.
Is that good?
One of them, I should say, like the best finish was that they won 6 of them. The other 2 were a T4 was the best finish and a T11. So their worst best finish between the 2 of them in events that they both played in was T11 at Harbortown. It's crazy.
Bodes well for Scottie.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, one of them whichever one of them was hot in a given event, usually went on to win the tournament.
Right.
That's how 2023 has gone so far.
Is there anybody else on this leaderboard that you're looking forward to for any reason, right? You've got Jordan Spieth. Did we get a clean bill of health on Jordan Spieth shooting a 73? Is it Phil? Is it Ricky? Is there anybody that you're laser focused in on this Friday?
I think it's Hovland.
2 under par.
Hovland's 2 under. He's 3 back, 2 back of the real lead. And he's interesting because he's gotten some criticism, I think, over the last, year of like, hey, he needs to win the big one or whatever. Guess how you win the big one? You build up to it. Right? Not everybody's Spieth, not everybody's JT, not everybody's Rory. Hovland is building up to, he was T5 at the Open after the first round last year. He was T1 after the first round of the Masters this year. He's T4, T3 right now, going in after the first round of this year or of the PGA Championship this year. And I think he's learning. He said after his round, Rick, he was like, I'm learning to be patient. I'm learning to be disciplined. I'm learning I don't have to go at every pin, which sounds
he loves to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I remember Keela. He was kind of dialed, and then he's just trying to flag every shot. And you're like, I don't think that's how it works. But it takes time to learn that, to get accustomed to it. And I'm excited to see how his next 54 holes go.
His last 2 major championships are his best major championship finishes, correct?
Yep.
All right. So that's the guy we'll certainly be keeping an eye on amongst many, many others, because we have a lot more action coming from the PGA Championship and Oak Hill. We here at the First Cut Podcast will have you covered each and every day after the round. Big thanks to all the hard work being done behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, available on Twitter at TheRealGFD. This right here, that's Kyle Porter. Find him at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been the First Cut. We'll catch you next time.